Oh, we got a first storm system. Will be a series of storm systems coming across the U.S. and into the eastern part of the United States. We have got all sorts of winter weather advisories. Ice storm warnings are up too. We've got winter storm warnings up in the west and in the northwestern part of the U.S. on what is starting out to be a pretty busy February. Of course, we're always busy here on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, which you can support by doing your Amazon shopping using our referral link at the top of the chat board or on the descriptor to this podcast. It's pretty simple. Just use the link, search for your stuff, buy it. Amazon throws us back a little bit of coin for sending you there. Doesn't cost you a dime extra. It's all out of Amazon's pocket. And we do certainly appreciate those of you who support the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast by having shopped our Amazon referral link. I don't know if it sounds terrible, but I have a vicious head cold, so I'm gonna try to get through this tonight.
Well, the only person, if we do a short show because again of your condition, the only person who's going to royal up will be Reuben Fairchild. But we don't
Yeah,
care what he thinks.
exactly, exactly. And he's not on the board anyway, which makes it even more fun to talk to him about him behind his back than right to his face. So let's let's tell everybody up front now. So there's some slight schedule changes. So obviously, unless I'm on my deathbed, we'll be here tomorrow and Thursday. We will not be here Friday, but we will be here Saturday morning. We're going to do a Saturday morning show at 11 a.m. Okay, and Sunday, being Super Bowl Sunday, we're just going to take the day off. So we're adding a Saturday show at 11 a.m. Eastern time. So just mark that down. No show Friday, show the next two nights, and no show on Sunday. So welcome tonight to everybody on the chat board. Those of you who are dropping in, or perhaps you're watching in the background very quietly while you're munching on popcorn, because we're that kind of a show. We're glad you're here. And we want you to subscribe to my YouTube channel, if only because we're getting close to 15,000 subscribers. So if we can just kind of get to that number before the winter is out, it would make me especially happy. So make sure you subscribe, turn your notifications on so you don't miss us. And of course, if you like the show, hit the like button. So we've got actually I've been saying, I said this yesterday, I'll say this again today. Just watch looking at the models from run to run. It's remarkable to me how consistent they have been. Normally they're all over the place, out to 10 days. I mean, every run has been pretty much not identical. There's been some differences here and there, but the overall flavor of what we're in terms of a pattern, remains very, very consistent. I think we've got this system for tomorrow, which is not going to be a big snow producer, but for areas just away from the coast, I mean, freezing rain's a big deal. And if when it comes to ice, to me, we should be able to do without it. But we're going to have a very tricky freezing rain situation developing up for a lot of areas, just near the metro areas.
Yeah, what I'm hoping for, I'm actually hoping for snow, not a whole heck of a lot of snow, but I want the snow first. The last thing you need is to have the precipitation fall straight on through at the very start as freezing rain, because then that puts down a glaze, an icy glaze, which makes it very treacherous to move around and about. At least if you got the snow, that'll be a buffer. You'll have maybe what I think is going to be less than 2 inches most everywhere, even up in the northern and western sections of the Hudson Valley. But you take the snow and then you put the ice on top and then you try to clear it all away somehow or other during the course of the day on Thursday. And places in my Facebook forecast, Joe, I said places south of 287, Interstate 287, the Westchester waistline, if you will probably see a change over to plain rain. Whether or not you change over to plain rain north of 287 is debatable.
Yeah.
Renato was asking me about this at dinner time, and I said, well, I thought maybe I was pushing it a little bit in terms of optimism. I said, well, up here where I am, here in Putnam Valley, I said about a 40% chance of a change over to rain, maybe. but you know as well as I that sometimes you have cold air damming that holds in and makes it difficult to get that temperature. And by the way, we were talking about this a few days ago, actually late last week and a few days ago. I was concerned about the temperature on Thursday. You may remember that there was some
Yes.
forecast last week that was saying that temperatures on Thursday would soar to like 45 or even close to 50. Well, that ain't going to happen now.
Oh
Not
no,
with
not at
cold
all.
air. Not with this cold air. If we can get it above 32 and change over to rain, you're lucky.
Yeah.
You're lucking out. But it's going to be a long, tough haul to get that temperature above freezing, and we are looking at a very dicey situation for the Thursday morning commute. A couple of people have asked me, Joe, about why the National Weather Service did not issue a winter weather advisory for places south of 287, southern Westchester, or even for New York City, or portions of Long Island, northern sections of the North Shore of Long Island. Why didn't they put in an advisory up for these places, but they put an advisory up most everywhere else, north and west? Maybe the criteria fell just short of an advisory for southern Westchester, New York City, parts of Long Island. But you know what? I would have just threw up my arms and said, the heck with it. Put an
Yeah.
advisory because it's the morning commute on Thursday. And no matter what you do and no matter how you slice it, everyone is going to start off at least with some snow and then a period of ice on top of that, and then maybe a change over to rain. And that's going to make for a very tricky, treacherous, slippery, slidey Thursday morning commute, no matter where you're going to be and no matter where you're going to go.
So I thought maybe draw a line around Route 78 in New Jersey. Okay. So from there north starts out as snow, and in the areas that are on the southern end of that line I've drawn. Okay, so right there, a coating. You start to go further north. I think it could be an inch or two. Maybe in some colder areas as you move up through Connecticut, say Route 84 and points north, it could be maybe 2 or 3 before there's any kind of changeover if it makes it that far north. The other thing to watch for, I think, on Wednesday night and Thursday, there's a little secondary that's going to develop off the Delaware coast, and
Right.
that could turn that wind to keep that wind more northeast or north northeast. That could put some places that you might think you start to see the temperatures rise on the coast, and you're just inland, and you say, okay, well, maybe in another hour or two we'll be above 32. If a little secondary low that develops there could make a big difference, and all of a sudden you're at 31, and then you just stop because the warm air just gets cut off. I think that's something to watch for. The other thing is the system that follows for Sunday, and we'll touch upon that. I mean, in a lot of ways, it looks the same. I mean, there are some differences, but I think that system may play out the same way, with the exception that uh, that one may start out with colder air at the beginning, might have a bit more snow with that before it changes over to freezing rain, and we'll have to
A
figure
front,
out
a
the
front,
timing and all the rest of it.
a front end thump, if you will.
Yeah, that they think there's a better chance that there could be a bit of a front end thump on this with the Sunday system, and then we're going to see what happens next week because the models all seem to be zeroing in on something around the 12th, Lincoln's birthday, coming up from the Gulf states and then riding up the coast to some degree. And the Europeans very bullish on it. The GFS on the 18th. Well, the GFS has had it. It kind of decides it's too far north, too far south, or whatever it wants to do. But but on the whole, the models all seem to be zeroing in on a third event for the 12th would be the middle part of next week. So
Wednesday, a week from
yeah.
tomorrow.
So first things first is tonight's system. So let's take a look at that and see what's going on. Okay, the watches and the warnings. By the way, Joe, can you there's a super chat hit. If you would acknowledge it, please.
Yes, we're going to acknowledge it. It's Bogey's Bees. Thank you very much, Bogey. Yeah, no problem, sweetheart. And he's talking about a quarter of an inch of ice in Hershey, Pennsylvania. Ugh. Well, of course, if you do get that much ice, yeah, that is an ugh by all means. But I looked at the subjective forecast for ice from WPC, and they have the Hershey area in a 10 to 40% probability or possibility, probably leaning more toward the 10 than the 40 for a quarter of an inch or more of ice. But even if you have a little bit of ice, this is going to be a rough and tough go. So, regardless, be very careful. You can't do anything with ice. You could do something with snow, but with ice, that's a terrible situation. Also, I noticed on the chat board, Joe, that Renata's cousin from Rush, Kentucky, Mrs. Hutch 53, is on the chat
Oh,
board
very
tonight,
nice.
and she says we had 72 degrees yesterday, and there's still snow on the ground. And
Nice.
this is we were talking about the other day with yesterday with somebody on the chat board saying, "Well, why'd you even bother trying to shovel away an inch or inch and a half of snow? If you don't do anything to the snow, regardless, it's going to stick around or stay there." And I don't know how much they had initially up in Kentucky, Rush, Kentucky, where Renata's cousin is, but even a little bit of snow. I had to clear away from the back patio this afternoon a little bit of snow that I didn't get around to doing on Monday, and as I said, if you just expose a little bit, you don't have to expose the whole thing, but if you can expose a little bit of blacktop and then let the sun work on the blacktop, it'll spread out and start melting the surrounding snow, and that'll help you out a whole heck. If you don't do anything and you just leave that coating of snow, you can have all the sun you want, but the sun can only slowly but surely melt off the extreme top of the snow layer, and that's going to be a much slower process. But if you can get a little bit of the blacktop in evidence, then you'll get some help from Mother Nature.
All right.
72 degrees and still snow on the ground.
Well,
See?
I have no snow on the ground here in North Georgia. I got to 68 here, so it was a really wonderful day. I mean, it stinks to have a cold when it's as warm as it was today, but at least being outside uh, did make me feel a little bit better. All right, we've got winter weather advisories up for Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, the Hudson Valley, the northwestern, and actually the western half of New Jersey, up and down the state, under winter weather advisories, as is Delaware, northern Delaware, and the northern half of Delaware, into east into Maryland. I believe Washington, D.C. and Baltimore, yes, they are both under the winter weather advisory. Since I have this tight shot here, you can see the purple area, the counties in purple in western Maryland, northwest parts of West of Virginia, and northeast parts of West Virginia are under an ice storm warning, which you don't see too often. Then there's a bit of a gap in Ohio and Indiana, and then we've got winter weather advisories up also for this weather system producing some snow and ice in the northern half of Illinois, northern Missouri, much of Iowa. We've got advisories up for northeastern Minnesota, and then you go out to the west in the northern Rockies, Montana. Like the southeastern part is now not in a winter storm warning, but everywhere else is. Some it was bitter cold there. Look at some of the obs there reporting moderate snow with a temperature of 14 degrees below zero. That must be a sight to behold and experience. Winter storm warnings up for a number of counties in Oregon. Advisories for the Southern Cascades. Winter storm warnings up for the Sierra Nevadas as they're getting just pummeled with snow. And also some flooding, flash flooding, and flood advisories throughout much of central California, all the way to the coast from San Francisco northward, with the heavy rains that continue to stream in from the Pacific. So check out the satellite loop. Not much happening in the east, and we should be okay tonight, obviously, and we're going to be okay tomorrow, although temperatures are going to be trending colder. And big change tomorrow from today, and most highs will just be in the low and mid 30s across eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England. And maybe as you go further north in the Hudson Valley, maybe not getting out of the 20s, but you can already see the energy and the cloudiness that's spreading across the Dakotas and into Minnesota and Iowa and through the western lakes. And of course, the Pacific moisture that continues to pour in. And it's that Pacific element, by the way, that was sorely lacking through the month of January because we hardly got anything in terms of precipitation, and really didn't see much in the way of storm systems. The West saw next to nothing for the whole month, but now that that Pacific alleyway is open, it's setting up this series of storm systems that we're going to be seeing here in the Northeast and Mid Atlantic states, and even in the Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, and in different ways, also parts of the South.
And you know what's the general rule of thumb is that when you have a storm hitting the Pacific coast, that it usually takes about 3 or even 3.5 days to get it all the way over to the other side, to the eastern seaboard. The system that we're seeing right now hitting the Pacific coast is going to be the one that ultimately is going to affect our area tomorrow night into Thursday. That just gives you an idea of how rapid. It's almost like a zonal flow in some regards, but how quickly everything is moving from one coast to the other, from one end of the United States to the other. That a system that's out in the west, far west right now, is going to be influencing our weather beginning after midnight tomorrow night and on through the day on Thursday.
Yep, and it also is a big plus because we're only talking about maybe a 6, 7 hour event here from start to finish.
Right, and that plays into what you're going to be dealing with on Wednesday night, Thursday. Again, and I mentioned this the other day with the system we had on Sunday. I said the only thing that is upsetting the boat for all of you snow lovers is that it was speeding along. It was a fast mover. And in fact, the system that we had about a week or 10 days ago, also a very fast mover. Otherwise, you'd have had a lot more than the 5 or 6 inches that many people had ended up with. Now, again, another very, very quick mover. It'll be here for maybe only, as Joe mentioned, 5 or 6 hours, but that's going to be long enough. That's going to be long enough with the snow and the ice and the sleet and even the plain rain for some at the end. It's going to make for a really messy and nasty day on Thursday.
You can see on the radar the clobbering that's going on in California, around the San Francisco Bay Area and points northward and inland. They had 70 and 80 mile an hour winds, wind gusts from this push that has moved into the rest of the state. Some snow, some heavy bands of snow in the Sierra Nevadas, and also further north up into southern Oregon. And you can see the arc goes up through eastern Washington and Oregon, across Idaho, and into Montana. And some of that is also some of that lead moisture spreading aloft into the Dakotas, where you see some of those grayish radar echoes. That stuff isn't really reaching the ground. The folks at WPC over the next 7 days they have a lot of precip in the Ohio and Tennessee Valley on the order of an inch and a half to 2.5 to 3 inches in some places. The southeast, not so much, away from the mountains, and Florida, hardly any at all. And then, of course, in the mid Atlantic up into New England, we're looking at um, precipitation on the order. Now, remember, there's two events here, so we're looking at maybe four 4/10, 5/10 of an inch of liquid for the event for Thursday, and the WPC folks are forecasting 3/4 of an inch to an inch and a quarter, in some areas to an inch and a half to the south. So the second system might be more along the lines of, say, a half to 3/4 of an inch or a bit more than that. Also, half to 3/4 up into New England. And you see the heavy precip, particularly in the Sierra Nevadas in California. WPC. So let's take a look at what they're doing here. So this is for an inch of snow. So it was never really going to be any, this first system was never going to be anything other than what it's turning out to be from the standpoint of snow. If you want big amounts, you got to go, way up. And this is for the 24-hour period. There we go,
Yeah,
100 likes.
yeah.
So this is ending 1 p.m., which is about the time that this will all be getting out of the way, maybe even a little bit sooner. And we have, I just wanted to just move it to 7 p.m. just to catch a few other areas to add it in. So the dark blue is a 40% chance for an inch. The next slider shade is 50%. That cuts right across New York City and cuts across the North Shore of Long Island. The probabilities go way up as you head up into the Hudson Valley and into New England, where you're talking 80 to 100% probability for at least 1 inch. But if I'm going to just go to 4 inches, and you'll notice that there's not a whole lot here. I mean, you're talking 10 to maybe 15, 20% chance north of Albany, and also in a small area in southern southwest Maine, where you've got maybe a 20 to 30% chance that there could be at least four. So, I mean, this does not look like it's something that shows a lot of upside because, again, it's moving fast and you need to buy at least a couple of extra hours of snow to put down anything significant, and you just don't have that here. You just don't have that. Now, WPC on their long range, so this is for Sunday's event, and they have now this is the probability for. I'm going to make it simple and just say this is the probability for the way the map is defined, it's a quarter of an inch liquid equivalent of snow and sleet. So let's call it at least a few inches, at least 2 to 3. Okay. And they have the blue is a 50 to 70% chance for at least a few inches, 2 or 3, across southern Pennsylvania, in New Jersey, north and west of, say, the Route 1 corridor or I-95, maybe. New York City's in that 50 to 70. Also, southern Connecticut and southeastern New England. And the light blue is 70 to 90% chance for at least a few inches of snow. That covers just about all of the Hudson Valley, most of Connecticut and Massachusetts, except the east, southern Vermont and New Hampshire, northwest New Jersey, well, even into parts of northeast New Jersey, into westernmost Bergen County is where that 70 to 90% line. So, WPC's kind of on board. They're on board with me, Joe. I kind of think that the Sunday system has a little more room, a little more moisture, and maybe a little more time to produce something more on the way of snow.
Well, let's also point out that when you just said the Sunday system, I think that by Sunday morning, daybreak, or shortly thereafter, all of what you see there will be pretty well over with. That we're actually looking at an event that
Yeah, I'm sorry.
probably,
The map. This. You're right. Let me just correct it. This map is actually for from 12Z Saturday through 12Z Sunday. So
right.
it's through 12Z Sunday morning.
I'm only saying that or pointing that out because again, Sunday is Super Bowl Sunday, and I know a lot of you, in fact, myself and Renata, we're going to be at a Super Bowl party. A lot of people are going to be going out. Some people have even suggested that they're going to make Super Bowl Sunday a national holiday. I mean, it's a Sunday though. How do you make a holiday out of a day where most everybody has the day off anyway? But so many people are going to be out and about traveling, get-togethers, parties, and whatever. So it's important that the weather cooperates. And so, people hearing about a Sunday weather system, well, it's Sunday. What are we going to do with it? I can assure you that for most of you, at least in the immediate New York area, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, whatever's going to happen is going to happen later Saturday night, and pretty well will be ending by Sunday morning, if not at already ending. And so that'll leave much of the day. So if you get like 3, 4, 5 inches of snow, it's on the ground. Let's say Sunday morning, or if you have some snow and ice and then you have the whole day to clear it away before you get in your car and travel to your party later that afternoon or early evening. So it's not going to be terrible, but that's what you're going to be facing again on Sunday, probably first thing right off the bat in the morning. And again, the worst of this will probably be Saturday night in terms of whatever falls in terms of frozen precip, snow, sleet, ice, or even a changeover to plain rain.
This map I just put up is WPC's. This is Monday into Tuesday, and this could be the setup. This is their initial view of the setting up of what could be the system that follows the Saturday night Sunday morning system, which would be for, let's say, maybe Tuesday night, Wednesday of next week. So just want to point that out. And the light green is all 10 to 30, and the darker green that you see in West Virginia and Western Virginia is 30 to 50. Now, bear in mind, this is in their day 4, 5, 6, day 7. So that's pretty far out. So if they got something in the day 7 time frame, you know that you know that they have some confidence that there's going to be something to deal with. Now, there's your Pacific energy, and as Joe said, this thing is going to some of that energy coming eastward reforms. You have that low there in Oklahoma. There's also some lower pressures up in Minnesota, and you see precip breaking out in Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee. It's all rain. You start to see freezing rain Wednesday night breaking out in Northern Virginia and in Ohio, and then by Thursday morning, actually the fairer view here, I think, is probably going to be that radar view. I think that works a bit better. So here's a closer view here of what the radar is supposed to look like per the GFS. And there are model differences here with regards to, the timing and how much snow there may or may not be. If you're a forecaster, you're gonna, you could either sit there and try to pull your hair out trying to get every flake right. It's just not going to happen. This is one of those situations that you just sort of broad brush it as best you can. And you can see there's a decent burst of snow on the front end, but there's no time because it's just moving too quick. This is at 7 a.m. and the precipitation is in Long Island and Western Connecticut and in the Hudson Valley, snowing in much of the northern half of Jersey, northeastern Pennsylvania. All that purple you see is freezing rain, which most of that's going to fall. We were in 6 hour increments here, so you can't see what's in between. And then by 1 in the afternoon, the back edge of the precipitation is pulling out. It's snowing up in New England, it's still snowing in Connecticut, but it's just about gone, and that's gone from there, probably at around 3 or 4 p.m. So it just moves along, little room for upside. The only way, Joe, you know what? The only way you get some upside is if you somehow you get a band of moderate to a very brief, narrow band of moderate to heavy snow that develops here on the front end. I just don't know that you have the dynamics to do that. So, again, the bigger story to me is the freezing rain. A half an inch of liquid in areas where it falls all as freezing rain is all going to be, a quarter to a half an inch of ice. And that is not going to be fun.
I noticed that on tonight we for the first time we actually shifted allegiance and watched the ABC evening news as
Yeah.
opposed to what we normally do with CBS. But in any case, the
Well, you did
ABC,
hear you did hear David Muir say that to Ginger Z that we'll be tracking it here.
yeah, well, the thing that I took note of is the fact that they were promoting this more as an ice storm than anything else. That they were talking about
Right,
the ice storm. They weren't
right.
talking about the wintry mix or the snow or the rain. They were just saying flat out ice, and they were talking about ice from Washington and Baltimore and Philadelphia and New York and up to Boston. And it made me think that if you say that long enough and hard enough, people looking out their window, let's say early Thursday morning, and seeing the snowfall instead of the ice. And I mean, and eventually will change the ice. But they say, wait a minute, I thought it was going to be an ice storm. It's snowing, that kind of thing. But this is what it all boils down to. And I learned this when I was working in television from a consultant who came periodically to News 12, and he said that the deal is this: you got to brand everything. Everything is in television is based on branding, and if you can brand it, so apparently, at least at ABC, they have already branded this as an ice storm. Not snow or a winter storm or a winter. They just said flat out, it's an ice storm. So there you go.
David Scott says regarding the Sunday system and the potential slump at the onset, is this like a 2 to 4 potential? David, I don't think I 2 to 4. I think is really pushing, and I know the GFS is kind of aggressive on it. with the precip. Uh, I think you could certainly get an inch or two. Maybe somebody gets three away from the coast. I just don't think there's time. That's your biggest. That is your biggest issue here. With this first system is time because it's moving so fast. Now the second one, if you follow the second one along, so this is the first one. So here comes the second one. We're going to turn colder behind this for Friday into Saturday. The second one is very similar. Maybe tracks a little bit further south on the surface low. The southern feature is the more dominant one, as opposed to tomorrow, Thursdays, where the northern feature is more dominant. And there is a bit more in the way of colder air. So I think maybe this one has a better chance of getting a front end thump of a 2 to 4, say, as it goes by. And again, you see the freezing rain in Pennsylvania again, in New Jersey again, southern New York. The primary low goes into western Pennsylvania. There's a secondary low here somewhere near Cape May or in Delaware Bay. So we'll have to watch, see how that plays out, because that could be another situation, Joe, like you pointed out, where you think it's going to change over, and secondary cuts the cold air off, and you're sitting there with freezing rain, and you can't get above 32. So then that goes out. And now we start to set up the system for the middle part of next week, and you see it coming out of here, low pressure. As each one of these lows goes by, the surface, you notice the tracks of the lows are getting further south. Well, this one's way south. It's down in Mississippi and Alabama and Georgia, and rides out to the northeast with snow here for Wednesday the 12th. So we'll see how this plays. I mean, it doesn't really develop very much. It's kind of like a sort of a flattish wave and a lot of overrunning, but you could do pretty well with a snow event like this, and then that goes away. And down the road, a little bit of changes going on, and the models have a tougher time handling what they're handling. But I think having three storms on the map in a week is enough for us to deal with.
Right, absolutely. Don't forget also when you and I were growing up, the 12th was a national holiday. The
That's
February
correct.
12th was
The
Lincoln's
12th,
birthday.
the 12th and the 22nd.
Right. But now we just celebrate, all the presidents on President's Day weekend, and that will be the weekend of the 16th and the 15th, 16th, and 17th. So
Some of the ice
who
accretion.
knows? And who knows, Joe? That we may, if the way the storms are churning out every few days, by the President's Day weekend, we have something to worry about. I'm not saying that that's going to be the case, but it's been such an active weather pattern. Who's to say after what happens after the 12th and 13th?
Yeah, no, I understand. Uh, I got the ice accretion forecast maps from the Weather Service, and in the Allegheny Mountains in West Virginia, pushing up into Southwest PA, you're looking at a quarter to a half an inch of ice accretion. Around the Washington, D.C., Baltimore area, about maybe 5/100ths to about a tenth of an inch. Across Pennsylvania, it's mostly 1 to 2 tenths of an inch of ice accretion. Same for western New Jersey, looks like around a tenth of an inch of ice accretion there. And then you've got, lower amounts in parts of the Hudson Valley, also in parts of the Connecticut River Valley and further north up into New England. And with regards to the digital forecast on the snow amounts, you see how far north you got to go where there's more time. I mean, you literally have to go up to the I-90 corridor in order to start getting into 3, 4, and 5 inch amounts. And those places will do it there. But to the south, maybe across Connecticut, 2, some places 3, Hudson Valley, 1 to 2, maybe 3, a coating to an inch as you get further south along the coast. They're actually covering it for a coating all the way down into Delaware and Washington, D.C. I don't know. That may be a bit of a push, but you never know. But again, it's hard to get aggressive with a system like this, if only because of the fact that it's moving so quickly and you only have a limited amount of precip and time. But then we got the Sunday system, and then we've got another one for next week. And by the way, it is again, I got the 18Z European. We should take a look at that really, really fast. So give me a moment here.
Kind of
And
reminds me, some years ago, we had a big ice storm that was predicted for here in the Hudson Valley, and I went to the Home Depot at the Cortland Sound Center to pick up a bag of salt. And when I got there, I'm looking around, I couldn't find any salt. So I finally flagged one of those guys. They wear that red or orange apron at the Home Depot, and I said, "Excuse me," he said, "can you tell me where the salt is?" And the guy looked at me and he said, "I could tell you where it was."
yeah, the that's kind of like what happens down here with salt. The European here, with the first one, I mean, it's pretty much the same as the other models. With the second one for Sunday, also here, pretty much the same as the other models. Maybe a little bit less in the way of a secondary, but that may or may not mean anything at this point. And it doesn't go far enough; it only goes out to 144 hours. Although the older run did have, matched up with the GFS and the Canadian. By the way, they're all three of them, and even the Icon. I mean, all of them have pretty much the same idea. Excuse me. One nose blow. How to do it? You want to ring the bell because I blew my nose?
No.
I didn't think so.
Well, we said at the start that you were having your share of problems.
Yes.
And I salute you to the fact that here it is now. It's at 8:11. That's certainly not an abbreviated show because of your situation. So
Well, my throat's fine. I feel fine. It's just right up. This is the third. I went 5 years, Joe, not having a cold. Over 5 years. I've had one, I've had a cold at the beginning of December, cold at the beginning of January, and now another one at the beginning of February. And they've all played out the same way. It's all like right in here. Okay. It started in my throat, scratchy, didn't really get like sore where it hurt, but it was, you definitely felt it was scratchy. And then that went away. And then I just said, okay, this was last night. And I woke up this morning and I was like, all right, it's going to come in. And sure enough, like around 9 or 10 o'clock this morning, like a ton of bricks, it just hit me. So it's all up here. So if it plays out according to plan, I should be better tomorrow and definitely better on Thursday. So, but whatever's going around this year, it's like the same virus that's just being passed over and over again to the same people. Has been it's been difficult, but no matter. Okay, schedule wise, Dolph, we'll remind you again tomorrow and Thursday. So we're here the next 2 nights. We're not going to be here Friday. We will be here Saturday. It'll be a daytime show at 11 a.m. I don't have a fever, Vincent. 11 a.m. and then we're off on Sunday. So mark that all down. Okay. And we'll be back tomorrow night at 7:35 p.m. We'll hold Briller Jeopardy until because I want to go to bed now. JJ's already vacated the bed so I can get in it. So we'll see everybody tomorrow night.
we'll be here. It'll be the calm before the storm, the first storm. And thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for on my counter, it says 148 likes. Thanks to Bogey's Bees for the hitting the tip jar, and we'll all see you tomorrow.
Hey, Joe, Ruben
Yes.
Fairchild just showed up on the chat board.
And is there any response to the change in the schedule here or the upcoming
Oh, no,
schedule?
he just showed up on the show. I think he just got to the show late. You might want to watch the beginning of it, Ruben. And since you're here, it's time to say good night. Good night.
Good night.